What's up, folks, and welcome to this week's episode of the Pilot Review Show. I am Captain Blade J52, and I am joined, as always, by TeacherKirby.
Hey, folks, how's it going tonight?
And the man with the RP mastery, Artie.
Hello.
Anyways, we got a few things we want to get into for you guys this week. You can probably tell we're at Rosanna. Currently, I'm down at the Dabo tables, sadly. But suppose we'll go ahead and get into our first blog. This is the Tales from K13.
Yes.
This is one of our RP blogs that they had. Looked like they were discussing what to do with the Klingons a little bit. We'll have that in the notes for you guys to check out. Any thoughts on this particular blog, guys?
I thought it was very interesting. Basically, they blamed it on, was it psychosis? Hold on, I'm looking. They blamed the actions of the then chief engineer who tried to kill all the Klingons on some kind of psychosis from being in stasis too long, but I'm not convinced. That it was psychosis. What do you guys think?
I can see that. And what about you, Artie? I know you usually keep up with these.
Personally, I found it very interesting the talk between the Starfleet members and the Klingons, and how each person is dealing with this sudden change. It also gives us a in-game reason why the Klingons also get K13 and how they can use it. So I'm actually quite I see how that tied in. So it's really nice.
Makes sense, I suppose. To me, I'm looking to see how this is going to go, and I liked how they played it off as impressing the Klingons and eventually perhaps being friends. So I can see how that ties into maybe the TNG era a little bit. But we'll have that in the notes for you guys to check out. Definitely encourage you to look at it. They usually have some pretty good stuff in these blogs. That's where a lot of the story ends up taking place for the game as well. But moving right along, we have our PC patch notes for the 10th. This was our most recent set of patch notes. Not too terribly much to them this time around, but a couple of notes in general, some system issues they fixed, as well as a couple of known issues. Let's see, where's the one that I noticed a minute ago? But it's on there somewhere. Cannot for the life of me remember which one it was. Derp right in front of my face on the very top. Resolved an issue which was occasionally causing a crash when changing graphics settings. I know a lot of people have had issues with this new patch, with the new lighting system and everything, especially a lot of AMD users, and they're still trying to work on some of the issues and some of the kinks in that. That's the major one that sticks out to me off the top of my head. What about you guys?
I saw it resolved an issue that was allowing scramble fighters to affect non-hanger pets. So I thought that was quite interesting. That means things like your fleet support, for example, would be non-hanger pets. So I thought that was quite interesting. Obviously, scramble fighters is not supposed to affect those, but it seemed to be, so nice fix there.
Indeed. What about
Yes.
you, Artie? Anything in particular sticks out to you?
What I noticed was the fleet projects reduced the energy credits cost to complete the project fleet upgrade, the lithium ore refining assignment unlocked, and all that. I do like how they, changed all that. It was really nice. You don't have to spend millions of EC or, trying to keep up a good amount of EC on the fleet now, and, can still spread it around how many members you have instead of, spending millions, basically.
I can see that. But again, we'll have this stuff as well for you in the notes. One, I do want to point out as well for those people that like to see this kind of thing in game, it updated the memorial to include Don Marshall. So if you're somebody that likes to check out the memorials and everything, then that's a nice little nod to quite a few people there. But anyways, we'll have this in the notes for you guys for y'all to check out and everything. There's not really too much this week. We might have some more stuff for you guys next week, but we'll be sure to...
go ahead. The other thing I did notice, because a lot of people are asking about this, some kit items are still missing or stuck in mail.
Indeed.
So they do know about it. They are working on it, so be patient.
Yeah, that is definitely something that I'm glad you mentioned. I honestly forgot about that one being in the notes. But yeah, if you're still having issues with the kits and everything, then, like Teacher was saying, just be aware it is a known issue. They are looking at getting this fixed. As much as y'all hear me harp about this a lot, and they hear me harp about it quite a bit, it takes time to work with computer code because it can be a royal pain in the butt. As much as I wish it was as simple as flipping switches, that's not always the case. But anyways, they are working on it, so just give them a little bit of time and you will get your stuff back. But anyway, moving right along, we have the K-13 Fleet Holdings Special Unlocks, the little blog on that, telling about some of the stuff we've got from the episode Painful Omens and everything, talking about that a little bit, as well as some of the special projects that they'll have unlocked, such as the Alien Studies. But not really too much as far as that blog goes. But any thoughts on that, guys, before we move right along?
Well, I want to note that these projects will be available to slot for 2 weeks each. So if you're backed up on them and you don't finish it within the 2-week allotment, or get it to where it's at least the primary, then you're gonna somewhere in there lose the ability to slot one of them. So encourage your members of your fleet to donate. I know it's still, you know what I mean?
Yep.
But still, you know, if you want to have the special unlocks, you're gonna have to pony up. That's just the way it is. So yeah, so we have until right now. You can have the first one up and have the second one slotted behind. You won't lose the ability for that one to move up, but if you don't finish at least the first one by the 24th, then you won't have the ability to slot the third in that back slot that most members can't see, that the fleet leaders and those with the ability to slot projects can see. So, and then from that point you'll have 2 weeks to finish that first mission, so you have the ability to at least slot the third one.
Indeed. So
just fair warning.
definitely now's the chance, now's the time if y'all want to do this, to make plans for it and everything. Otherwise, you're going to miss out on it until they decide to do a re-roll of the projects later on, whenever the next time they roll that around is. But go ahead, take care of it now if that's something your fleet's interested in. If not, then, well, I don't guess you got to worry too much about that. This is the next big thing that I know a lot of people were wondering about. I've seen talk of in several groups that I'm a part of. When are the fleet holdings finally going to be coming to the console? I know they had the Spire, I believe it was, and I think some of the... No, they didn't have the research lab. What's the other one they had? I've not been on my console character in a while. Thank you. So, you're going to be getting a lot more of the fleet holdings, pretty much all of the ones we have. I don't think console's going to get K-13 yet, because they've not got everything else leading up to that.
They're getting the dilithium mine, embassy, spire, and research lab, as well as the main fleet.
So, quite a particular bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
This blog, it goes over it, talks about adding some of the functionality and everything, some of the fleet officers you can pick up, explains the different tiers of the star bases and everything, shows off some of the stuff that you can get. Trying to scroll down kind of slow so you folks can see that on the local recording later on. But yeah.
Yes, and some wisdom from at least one fleet leader here. Don't worry about the main starbase first off. That's going to take a while to do. Focus your efforts on the smaller holdings, because those have a lot of the things you're going to need. And I particularly advise the fleet dilithium mine, because that gives, once you get it up, it gives so many discounts to the amount of contributions needed. And that means dilithium contributions, EC contributions, you know, was it the different specific, oh my goodness, not requisition, oh my goodness, the ones for each holding.
I think we need to
Why
reset
can't I remember
the
the
Kirby.
goddamn name? Yes, we need to reset the Kirby. Hold on, I'm gonna look it up.
Talking about discounts for the different holdings.
Look it up. Yep. No, the what the requirement is. Provisions. Thank you. Like the dilithium on provisions, the spire provisions. You know, all of those are things that are definitely, those provisions are a fleet credit sink. Yeah, couldn't get the words out. Don't you just love my lovely side effects meds? Alright, so those are definitely important things to get discounts on, and that comes from the fleet dilithium mine. So definitely I encourage focusing all your efforts on that first, and then after that you can choose where to focus your efforts on. I'm sure some in here have I know I have recommendations, but definitely the fleet don't mind first.
Let me actually... Then I know one thing a lot of people have asked me about is, at least as far as me personally, is where can I get some good weapons and everything. Well, I know you guys on the console are getting the crafting system as well. That's going to be one good way you can get a lot of good weapons. You have greater control over everything that way. You can control what mods you get a little bit easier. It's a lot cheaper to manufacture. Now, the fleet weapons is another method you can get, and it is from the starbase. So I do want to touch base on the starbase a little bit, since Kirby mentioned that. I am going to say I agree with her. Definitely focus your fleet dilithium mine first. That's where you're going to get a lot of your discounts. It's going to make everything else easier to level in the meantime. Those discounts that you get will apply to all holdings you have now and all future holdings they bring out later. So right now, where my fleet has a maxed out dilithium mine, we're getting the full discounts towards K13, which was the new holding that we got on PC recently. I believe it is... Tier of Starbase gave the fleet weapons. Advanced fleet weapons is tier 2, so for those people on the console, that's going to take a while for you guys to get there. So definitely focus your fleet dilithium mine first. From there, I mean, yes, put resources into your starbase, but make sure all your other stuff is built up first, because the starbase is going to take a while. I've had my fleet for a couple of several years now, and you'll be able to see this on the stream and the local recording. We're just now a little over halfway to a tier 5 starbase. So it's going to take a while. But anyway, I think that's warranted a couple of notes as far as that goes. I wanted to touch base on that. But yes, definitely focus your holdings specifically.
Yeah.
Usually what we did...
And
oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, there are ways to get the fleet marks that are needed. The dilithium, of course, is going to be how you're going to have to grind it. But if you want a bunch of fleet marks, you know, get your fleet friends together. Go run DeFerraground. DeFerraground is awesome for fleet marks. It's very fast. You can do it once a day. Another option is Undine Assault Advanced. You can do it's space. You can do that every half hour, and it gives a large amount of fleet marks. You know, so those are two things you can do to keep the fleet marks flowing, if that's what you need.
And one thing, too, I do want to mention as another thing, one of the big questions I've had people ask me before is, where's a good spot to get duty officers? Where's the best place to get that? Now, one thing I do want to say, this is available. I know Teacher has some methods of her own as far as getting duty officers. One method you do have, if you have the spare fleet credits, is you can pick up duty officers at your starbase once you get it to a certain tier. It's about 750 fleet credits per specialized officer, and by specialized I mean, like, do you want a tactical, do you want a science, do you want an engineering, that kind of thing. Then it's 500 for one that you can just take a random chance on. So you can pick up duty officers there. It's that's the one thing I will mention you do not have to provision is the duty officers. You just have to have it unlocked, and you can buy as many duty officers as you have fleet credits. I know we're throwing a lot at you guys at once on this, but we want to get you guys the information. That way, all of you guys that see this, either now through the stream or perhaps later on through the local recording that gets uploaded, that way you have the information and you can hit the ground running and get a lot of stuff done.
Yes. Now, it is possible, and one thing I did as a fleet leader was I would slot my projects on my dilithium mine, and I decided that was going to be the first thing I was going to level up for obvious reasons, but for the discounts. But what I did was I would slot my projects, I would wait 4 hours to give my fleet members a chance to donate. If it wasn't filled, by then I would come in and fill whatever was left. I would let them know, anybody that was online, by then I would put out in my fleet, I'm about to go flip the projects, put in anything you want now, as a reminder, and then I'd give them 5 minutes, and I'd go in and I'd wipe them out. That guaranteed that every 24 hours, we were flipping projects. It took, I'll be honest, it took a good 3 months, because some days I missed. But, you know, but it does take a lot of resources to do that. So, fair warning. But doing that, it took a good 2-3 months to get that fleet mine leveled up. But then the next one was easier because we didn't have as much that we needed to contribute. So.
Yep. No, we've yacked a good bit on the fleet holdings coming to console. Artie, you got any thoughts?
Yes, we have.
Nah, this fleet projects are actually just fun by me. I mean, it takes up all the like resources that you have laying around. It's easy, really, to me anyway.
It does.
Yep. But anyways, that's for our console players as well. Then the next big thing you guys are getting, you're actually getting the full duty officer system, which goes right along with everything else. And then anyway, the duty officer system, I'll go ahead and move the Admiralty blog over as well, because they kind of go hand in hand with a lot of stuff. But basically, your duty officers, they are, as far as lore-wise within the game, they're essentially the junior officers of your crew. They do a lot of stuff that's, such as lore-wise, going through the Jeffries tubes and things like that. You could send them on different assignments. The different assignments will give different rewards. Some assignments might give, as an example, a pack of R&D materials. Another assignment might give a little bit of dilithium. And another assignment might give a couple of consumable buff things that you could use. Just kind of depends on the assignment, really. Now, there's the different degrees of the duty officers. There's your common whites, the uncommons, the rares, the very rares, ultras, epics, and everything you would expect from the PC version. But the other thing to mention with duty officers as well is you can actually have some of them on your roster set to active. They'll give certain benefits to your character on the ground and also in space, depending on what kind of duty officer they are. The buffs can range from anything to critical chance whenever you're firing energy weapons to allowing you to use your evasive maneuvers more often. Really depends on the duty officer. So quite a bit of good stuff there. Everything. I know teachers
Yes.
have got a lot more experience with the duty officer system than me, so
yeah.
give them some info.
Well, duty officers are one of the things that you're going to need to donate to projects. Thankfully, it's the common duty officers, which are normally referred to as cannon fodder. The common ones are, they don't have a lot of special things to them. They're kind of like your common equipment. Uncommon has a bit more to them. They give a little extra bonus towards your success at completing very rare, same thing, or rare and very rare, same thing. Very rare gives more of an extra bonus towards completion. They give the most. They're also the most sought after. Is the very rare. They also give the biggest buffs to your character if you slot them as actives. So yeah, there are. Now, if you're KDF, the duty officer system can be a bit more lucrative than Federation. So it's one of those things. You can build up prisoners and turn them over for dilithium on the KDF side for a good amount, 1,000 each. And you can do that every 8 hours, if I remember rightly. It's been a while since I've done it, actually, believe it or not. And things like that. You can easily get contraband on the KDF side or Klingon side, and turn that over for 2,000 dilithium every 20 hours. Things like that. So yeah, it gets very easy to grind those things, and contraband at least is tradable across all of your tunes, across all of your characters, so you can easily switch that over to a Federation tune and get the same 2,000 dilithium for 5 contraband every 20 hours if you wanted to do that, if that's something you want to start grinding. So that's easy, really easy to do with your KDF characters via the doffing system. So,
yeah,
and it gives a little bit of XP as well.
Indeed. There's quite a bit of stuff there for you guys to go over. It does touch base on it a little bit more than what we're able to explain here in a reasonable amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to have, again, all of this stuff in the notes so you guys can check it out for our new console players that are going to be coming in and everything.
Yes.
So we're not going to leave you all high and dry. We're going to make sure you have the information and everything for you guys to do what you need to do. But moving right along to our Admiralty system. Admiralty is what I like to refer to as the second leg of the duty officer system. It's very similar in overall function and in what it does, except in this instance, instead of using just regular ground troops or crew members, it functions using ships. Now, you unlock the Admiralty system at level 52, and you can kind of see on the local recording and everything later on just the examples that they gave in the blog of the different type of ships you have. Now, every ship that you have from, if you're a Federation tune, the starting Miranda class, all the way up to your Tier 5 and 6 ships that you'll get later on, will grant you an Admiralty card once you reach level 52. So all you have to do is log into the character. It'll grant you the Admiralty version of the ships. Now, one thing I will mention, because this was asked when it came out on PC a couple years back now, if you get an Admiralty ship, say you get one rewarded from one of the missions, which can happen, do you get to fly that ship? And the answer is no. Sadly, you don't. I just want to make that clear so that it doesn't confuse you guys on anything. You've got this ship wondering, okay, well, I've got this ship in Admiralty. Why can't I fly it? Why is it not in my roster? But another thing as well, once you get the card itself, you do not have to keep the ship. So if you've got the starter Miranda, you want to discharge it, but you're worried about losing the card, that's not going to happen and everything. And if you wanted to, you could always reclaim one later on, as far as that stuff goes. But your Admiralty...
And no, you... But the
ahead.
other thing is you will not get an extra card for reclaiming it.
Indeed.
One card per customer.
Yeah, that's one thing we probably should mention. But yeah, like I said, you can have... now, as far as the one-time use cards, you can have multiples of those, but as far as the permanent cards you keep, barring some kind of special event or special exception, you can only have, as Kirby said, one per customer there. But your different ships, they've got different abilities and everything, such as... one of the ships they have in the example is the long-range science vessel refit. It has 15 engineering, 15 tactical, and 42 science, and also another little ability that you can have. Some ships have some abilities, some ships do not. It's kind of a mixture of stuff, I suppose you could say. And basically, the different stats of your ships determine pretty much the success of the mission. Some missions may require you have a lot of engineering focus. Some of them may take a lot of science, and others may take a lot of tactical. Now, I do want to mention that if you are a KDF player, any science-heavy missions are probably going to be a little bit more difficult for the Klingons and the Klingon-aligned Romulans, for the simple fact that those two factions don't really have a lot of science ships, at least at the moment over there. Now, there are some ships that will be coming down the line for you guys that aren't faction-specific that can kind of alleviate this a little bit, but it is something I wanted to make sure you guys were aware of.
Yeah. So if you have the ability to get something down the road like the Dyson Science Cruiser, definitely jump on that if you're wanting it for an Admiralty card. Because that's going to give you a good bit of science, and it has the ability to reduce any changes that are made to the science requirements. You'll find out what I mean by that later. They'll do things like tell you, oh, it's only 15 science, and then they'll add 50 to that as an event that goes with the thing. So now you have to suddenly get 65.
Yeah. It sounds a lot worse than it actually is. I want to throw that out
It does. It does. It sounds a lot worse than it is. But don't discount your shuttlecraft and your lower tier ships, because like you're looking at the light cruiser here, that's what's highlighted in the blog, and it shows 555. Well, yeah, that's not going to be much of anything, but that does have only a 30-minute cooldown before you can use it again. That's a very good thing. So if you need only a small amount to fill up a project, or you have a project that you don't want to skip, you don't want to use a skip token on, but you want to get through it, you can put one of these low, small time cooldown things on it to get through it, and you still have a chance of actually successfully completing the mission, believe it or not. And you have that available in 30 minutes after the assignment finishes. So it's a nice little trick us veterans have used.
Yeah.
Basically, the higher tier the ship, the more numbers it's going to have for each thing, engineering, tech, and science. But it's also going to have a much longer cooldown. Like you see in the 4 highlighted, you have 30 minutes, 8 hours, 12 hours, 18 hours. There's some that even go up to 20 hours and beyond.
Yeah. And
so,
as far as the Admiralty stuff goes, you do get quite a bit of stuff with it. I know there's been times as well where I've just not felt like grinding those last couple levels on a tune, so I just said a bunch of Admiralty stuff and said forget it. Now, it is very lucrative in terms of the experience that you can get for your character as well. That's a very great way to do it. There's, later on, I believe you guys will be getting what we have on the PC, which is temporal research assignments, and those are going to be another way you can get a lot of XP as well, by doing special duty officer and even Admiralty assignments. But anyways,
it's
again,
also...
go ahead.
It's also, depending on the assignments you choose, a good way to grind dilithium.
Indeed.
You can get a good amount of dilithium from some of them.
But anyway, we'll have this stuff in the notes for you guys. Again, there's quite a bit of stuff to it. We're trying to explain as much as we can, everything. So you guys have the information out there, have some of the tricks, the tips, everything that we've used and found success with. That way you guys don't have to worry about that sort of thing and worry about, oh, you know, what is this, you know, do stuff.
And there are videos out there that do explain the basics of the doffing system, the basics of the Admiralty system, and things like that. So if you search for those, what's going to be put out on console is virtually identical to what's being put out on PC. You may see some... you know, some interface differences, but other than that, it looks identical other than the interface.
Indeed. But,
So, yeah.
anyways, any thoughts from you, Artie, before we move right along?
Not really. It's really nice of how to grind up XP and the lithium, and that's a quick way of just getting a whole bunch in a short amount of time, really.
Indeed. But anyway, moving right along, folks, we have our budget builds corner. Now, last week we took a look at a build from TeacherKirby that was the budget Nandi build. This week I did found the old budget Vokuv carrier that I did. A few weeks back, somebody on one of my videos was asking me about a budget build for a Vokuv carrier. He wanted to be able to survive a little bit, but also be able to have some control and deal a little bit of damage at the same time. So I hooked him up with a budget phaser build for the Vokuv carrier. This is the tier 5 version, the one that you get from leveling. So what I hooked him up with was we used the quantum phase phaser array. Then I believe these are... It's the DMG2s. Oh, these are crit D2s. Okay. Then I used can't numbers today. I used 5 of the crit D2 phaser arrays that you can get from the Everything Old is New mission. You can get either crit D times 2s or DMG times 2s. Either one there. They're Mark 11s, so fairly decently modded weapons that you've got there. I utilized the Soul Defense space set for the survivability and the healing that it gives. Blech. I still can't words today, people.
Can't words today.
Yeah, that's words hard.
I know, right?
I'm starting to think I'm getting a contact high off of Kirby, but anyway. So, anyway, we've got the Soul Defense set there. The reason I chose that was for some of the set bonuses that it gives. The 2 set bonus gives you some free kinetic damage resist, and I believe all damage resist as well. I don't remember the exact numbers, but fairly decent. So that's free damage resist that you have just by having these equipped on the ship. Then the 3 set is the big time heal that can pull you out of the fire in very tight situations. I also went with the temporal phase warp core from the butterfly mission. That way you can have a temporal negotiator type effect. That way, maybe you need a little bit of extra bridge officer cooldowns, or you need something to come back really quickly. You can pop that capacitor on the warp core, hopefully buy yourself enough time, and pull your rear end out of the fire. As far as devices goes, again, I always like to tell people those are purely personal preference. One of the ones that I did recommend that you use is the subspace field modulator. It's a very nice little device that you can get. that can be a good damage reducer in a pinch. It is from one of the episodes in the Spectre's arc. I don't remember the exact one that it comes from. Maybe one of these two do. But anyway, it's a free device you can pick up. Then we also have the Trillium Deplating from the Ragnarok mission. This comes from there. It's a nice little armor, also boosts the shield capacity and everything. Now, you're going to see a couple of things, such as a Plasmonic Leech, and one item that is epic quality. Now, I went with what I call a mid-range budget for this. For my mid-range budgets, I've got two types of budgets that I usually do for my videos. I've got the bare bones budgets, where everything is free, or as close to free as it can possibly be. Then for my mid-range budgets, I assume that you've got 30 million energy credits to spend and enough dilithium to get one item up to epic quality. So you've built up a little bit of resources and everything. Maybe you're a little bit farther along than somebody using a bare bones. But anyways, we've got a Plasmonic Leech that we purchased as one of the things there. Then, for our other engineering console that we bought was a Control X Conductive RCS. This one is a Mark 12 Ultra that has not been upgraded. That one was about 600k at the time. Then we have a Bioneural Gel Pack for the Bridge Officer cooldowns. It's very nice to have. It may not be a lot, but it's better than nothing. And it's a nice little slot filler. Then we have 3 of the exotic particle focusers that come from the Fleet Science Lab. These, apparently I got the, no, they come out at Mark 12, what am I thinking? I'm getting them confused with the Embassy consoles because the icons are pretty much the same on the STO Academy. But anyway, I went with the Control X and exotic particle generators because we're going to take a look at the Bridge Officer abilities in just a minute and we'll see why. But tactical consoles, we used the Quantum Phase Converter. That's the item we chose to take all the way to epic quality. And then we also have a Mark 12 very rare tactical console that we also crafted. So we had pretty much a decent equipment set. I didn't fill in the hangar spots because I figured people could use whatever pets they like, everything. But as far as equipment goes, that's what we've got for equipment. Take a quick look at the skills. Because he did want to focus more on survival, I gave him one of my older tank builds and everything. You can kind of see, got a few points in the hull capacity, and then one in the repair. And then kind of see how I've got the points set up here. Be able to have, I'll have the link for you guys so you can check it out once the local recording goes up and everything. But scroll down real quick to go over the skills. Basically, I tried to maximize as much damage and survival as possible from this. Now, I did not go for one of the ultimate abilities with this. And the reason I didn't do that, I know some people are going to disagree with me on this, but in my personal opinion, I think you have to sacrifice way too much in order to pick them up as far as tanking goes. Again, this is just my personal opinion. If you want to use an ultimate ability, then by all means feel free to go for it. But again, this is just my personal preference. But as far as specializations go, I recommended Pilot Primary, Strategist Secondary for a lot of the immunities you get, as well as the tanking buffs that you can get. Then for the traits, this is where we spent the biggest chunk of our energy credits, was on 2 of the traits. We have the Ablative Shell trait. We also have the R&D trait from the Beam School. This is the Beam Barrage. You get that for free just by leveling beams to 15. We have Beam Training, Elusive, and then we have Invasive Control Programming. That's another one we bought off the exchange. Then we have the Particle Manipulator. We also have Imposing Presence for the free threat gen that it gives. Then we have Point Blank Shot. That one comes from one of the missions. And then we also have Operative that we can pick up for free as well. But you kind of shift those traits around as you need to. That's just what I used personally for this build. But as far as starship traits go, we have improved pedal to the metal that we get from maxing out the pilot tree. And we also have the best defense. That one, I believe, came from the House Peg mission.
Yeah.
Then for reputation abilities, I only slotted 4 of these because I'm assuming that in the budget builds you've not yet purchased the 5th trait slots. As
Exactly,
those are
that's what I
very,
did as
very
well.
expensive. And probably one of the last things you'll pick up. But as far as reputation abilities, I went with advanced targeting systems for the severity. I went with controlled countermeasures, letting you deal more damage against controlled targets. We have energy refrequencer for the healing, and then also precision for the critical hit chance. That's the ones I went with there. As far as space abilities go, pretty much we have the biomolecular shield that gives you a shield for yourself and allies that are in it, as well as some shield regen. We have the quantum singularity manipulation, which is a very, very sizable buff from the Romulan reputation, and does very good for science abilities. We have the deploy sensor interference platform. This essentially taunts off if you, maybe buys you a few seconds and everything to get a heal off, or perhaps slip away and then come back with, you know, either a stronger ship, get out of combat long enough to heal, whatever you need to do. And then lastly, the anti-time entanglement, because that thing is just nasty when you buff it up. But anyways, that's the traits and everything. As far as duty officers go, okay, I forgot to fill in duty officers, but basically for those, pretty much anything I would say that boosts your control, maybe adds to your survival. I would say that's kind of personal preference in that instance, but really quickly I'll touch base on the bridge officers, and then we'll move on to the buggy corner, and then on to everything else. Basically, for bridge officers, I wanted to give them a balance of survival, but allow them to have a little bit of damage dealing as well. As far as what I have on this particular ship, he only has the 4 stations. He has a Lieutenant Commander Tactical, a Lieutenant Commander Engineering, Commander Science, and a Lieutenant Science. So a very science-heavy ship for a carrier, which is kind of surprising in all honesty, but anyway. As far as his tactical abilities go, I had him go with a Tactical Team 1, a Beam Fire at Will 2, and an Attack Pattern Omega. Now, some people may be asking right away, why didn't I use Delta? Why didn't I tell him to do that or use Beta? For me personally, I recommended Omega because in a ship like that, you're not going to be really moving that quick. And if they lock you down with a tractor beam, then you're pretty much screwed. And you're up the creek without a paddle. That's going to be the one major weakness to a ship like that. Well, one of them anyway. But again, if you want to use one of those different patterns, maybe swap Fire at Will 2 to Fire at Will 3 and pick up a Beta or a Delta. You can definitely do that. I just recommended Omega because to me personally it has good offensive value and defensive value as well, depending on how you use it. But for engineering abilities, kind of standard, I would believe, for a lot of ships. We've got an engineering team 1, a reverse shield polarity 1, and then an emergency power to weapons 3. Now you will need to have a engineering character train that ability for you, or you can pick it up off of the exchange. For Commander Science, we have Science Team 1, Feedback Pulse 1, which allows him to spit damage back at the enemies that are attacking him. Then we have Destabilizing Resonance Beam 2. Now this is a bridge officer ability you get from the missions. Pretty much any captain can train it for their characters once they pick it up. So you just got to go through the mission. That is one of the ones in the Iconian arc, I believe. And then finally, Gravity Well 3. You will need a science character to train that for you, or again, purchase off the exchange. The final two abilities I have are the Hazard Emitters 1 that purges hazard debuffs such as Plasma Fire if you're fighting the Borg, and then Transfer Shield Strength 2. So I tried to go for a decent balance of damage, control, and survival. Everything. You're probably not going to be topping the DPS charts with this, but as far as surviving goes, it does pretty good. As far as damage and everything, once you master the build, get used to it and everything, I would say between 25 to 35k once you get it and get the hang of it and get everything down. But that's pretty much everything as far as the build itself goes. Anybody have questions, thoughts on the build, anything before we move along?
I was just noticing that the link in the show notes has not been updated.
Yeah.
So,
That's,
yeah.
yeah.
Other
We'll
than
have
that,
the link
yeah.
for you guys after
we'll have
that
the
and
link, don't
everything.
worry.
But yeah. And it's the correct link this time, I promise. But yeah.
Okay.
And the good news is the guy that I actually made this for and everything, he did do quite a bit better and everything, and the build did him pretty good. So, yay for that.
That's good.
But
That's awesome. And 25 to 35k is very respectable for a build that is a budget build. So
yeah. Like I say, this, again, is what I consider a mid-range budget. It assumes you've got a little bit of resources saved, and you're wanting to invest them in a ship now. But anyways, and looks like I'm up again with the Buggy corner. I don't really have too much for you guys this week, but I do have a couple of ones that are fairly interesting, I think, anyway. One guy is reporting for the mission Delta flight that he's having issues and everything. So, for whatever reason, it wasn't accessible. If you're having issues with that, then please let them know, because that can be a major game-breaking issue depending on the mission that it is. Then, one that I actually did hear about from a couple of folks earlier was that they were able to slot dilithium into a project that was already completed. So I'm sure you can imagine their shock when they saw that. He didn't put the dilithium in, he realized it before he did, so definitely pay attention to that. At the moment, we've not seen that again, but if anybody else does see that, again, please speak up, because that could be a major, major loss for fleets that don't really have a lot of resources.
yes, and if you could get a video of that and get it to one of us, that would probably be the best
Absolutely.
way of documenting that. So if you have video capabilities, you know, or at least screenshot capabilities, if you can, you know, document that in some way and get it to us, it would definitely go a long way towards getting something like that fixed.
Indeed. Like I say, I don't really have too awful much this week. I am still working on some stuff behind the scenes for you guys. We've been testing some of these things for several months now and everything to try to make sure that it's exactly right. Some of these are very, very technically inclined, and there's been a few instances where myself and Kirby have just been sitting there scratching our heads like it's doing that? Like, that's a thing?
Like going,
Yeah.
what? Yeah. For example, we've been trying to recreate something from the other day and get it on video, so yeah.
Like I say, once it gets fixed, I can tell you guys a little bit about it, but again, NDA prevents me from saying too much. But, like I say, that's pretty much all I've got with some of the major bugs this week and everything. But, hopefully they're able to get a lot of these things fixed pretty soon. They've been, in my opinion, doing a lot better with getting bug fixes out and everything. Doing a lot better with their communications and everything. Like I say, some of these are going to take time. Again, for my console players that may hear this and everything or see this later on, I know there's not a dedicated console forum yet, So again, if you have a bug, just put it up in the regular section. Just put something in the tag, such as Xbox, and then whatever bug it is, or PS4, and whatever's going on. Try to be as thorough as you can with it. If you can say, well, I go to this map, I did this, 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 and this is what happens. And if you can get photos or video, that's even better. And everything. But any little bit of information helps. So if you're having issues, please report them. That way they can get fixed. And everything. But anyways, that's all I've got this week as far as bugs go. And it looks like TeacherKirby is up this week. And one of my personal favorite sets, the Jem'Hadar set. Take it away, teacher.
Yes, the Jem'Hadar set. So the Jem'Hadar set does give a lot of drain expertise with it. You get it from running... Oh my goodness, see, I did this. This is why I need to do the videos closer to the air date. Because now I'm like, oh my goodness, which episodes were those? Okay, so it's out of the Dominion arc. And it was...
Operation
It's
Gamma.
not Operation Gamma, yeah.
And Boldly They Rode.
Thank you. And Boldly They Rode, yes. So, it was, yeah, Boldly They Rode for the shields. And Operation Gamma for the other two. If I remember rightly. Yeah, that's right, because I was like, oh my goodness. Yep, and Operation Gamma for the impulse and the deflector dish. So this is a 3-piece set. It does have some nice bonuses, and I'm going to say this if you're going for drain. If you're going for drain specifically using Polaron, it has some really nice bonuses. It does push you towards Polaron, which is interesting to say the least. But, you know, so if you're going for the full free build with the Polaron, you're gonna want the Dominion Polaron, which means you're gonna get really good at Boldly They Rode. Yeah, because you'll have to run that a bunch of times to fill out your best for that. And the Dominion Polaron is a good match for the Jem'Hadar set, so it is worth at least a couple runs of Boldly They Rode for that. Curland here. So,
Nothing but love for a man Vorticus that did the voice. Just throwing that out there.
Nothing but love for him, but Curland needs to understand the concept of radio silence. Because in that mission, he doesn't quite seem to. But, yeah, it is one of the missions that you mention it, and anybody who's played it goes, Curlin here. They know exactly what that means. So, as you can imagine, it's gonna get a bit hectic to run it, and the Operation Gamma is the one where you're in a shuttle, so it can be a bit of a pain to collect all the pieces. So weigh that against your desire to do a drain build with Polarons. You know, but it is a really good bonus for that type of build, and it does have some nice misses for Polaron. So if you are going for a budget for that, then it is a good set to get. A lot of people still do use it at end game, especially if they're going for drain, so there's nothing wrong with that. It will, you know, keep working for you, especially if you upgrade it. So, there you go. And I'm, of course, more detailed in the video.
Yep. I'm just curious.
Your comments, Chris? Yeah.
Just curious. Did you mention the little-known thing of what it does when placed on a Cardassian or actual Jem'Hadar ship, and it's using Polarons?
Oh, goodness. No, I forgot.
I'll go ahead and slip this
please.
out there a little bit, because this is actually a lesser-known thing. and whatnot. It's not going to detract from Kirby's video in any way. This is just
Yes.
something I wanted to throw out there as well for you guys. If you're somebody like me, you prefer to fly a Cardassian ship, specifically in my case, the Keldon now, whereas previously it was the Galore, or you're just somebody that enjoys Dominion ships in general. If you have it on an actual Jem'Hadar ship, this is the Bug ship, the Carrier, Dreadnoughts, and the Heavy Escorts, or the Galore or the Keldon, one of the things it will do is if you're using Polaron weapons, it has a very slight chance to strip buffs from enemy ships. I think it's like a 1%, 5%, somewhere along in there, between a 1 to a 5% chance to strip buffs. So that's another little surprise that not a lot of people think about, and not a lot of people remember that it can do. So if you're considering the Jem'Hadar set, that's one little thing you might want to take into account as well, if you have access to those ships. Again, you don't have to do that, but just something I felt that I would mention.
Yes.
But
And that is a good thing to know if you do like those kinds of ships.
indeed. But we'll have a link to Teacher's video in the notes and everything for you guys. But anyways, we're coming up on our last segment, but certainly not least. This week in Artie's RP Corner, we have two things, actually. The species
I was actually
creation...
gonna...
Oh, go ahead.
I was actually gonna ask Artie what the role-playing community's take is on the Jem'Hadar set. Do you require it for someone flying a Cardassian ship, or...
That's a good question, actually.
Personally, from what I've seen, we don't really have a real set, standard for, what shield systems or anything you use. As long as the skin looks pretty and, it matches whatever you're using, it's fine by us. So, if you're using a bug ship and you want to use the Jem'Hadar set, that's all up to you. But since we have the, now you're able to put whatever for visual, we could, you could have that set, as that in there instead of having it as the actual set that you're using, unless you really want to.
Okay.
Very true. The visual features are nice.
Oh yeah.
Alright.
But anyway, moving on to Artie's RP Corner, we have species creation and a mention of the Kardashev scale. Something that not a lot of people have heard of. Take it away, dude.
Okay, so basically, some people, especially GMs like myself, at least for the RP community, have decided to make their own special race for a special mission or something to go along with a crew. See what they go. Explore the expanse, basically. The great unknown out there. Who knows what you'll find? Maybe you'll find a four-legged species that speaks only in Gaelic now, apparently, or who knows what. There's just so many combinations that I guess you can say. Basically, a small, quick way of making a new species that would work for an RP community is, what do they look like? Is basically to start off. Yes, our character creation stuff in game is a little only up to biped, so there's that. But some people have made really good bug-like characters with our character creations. Made things that look very proto Klingon kind of thing. The head ridges, but look very primal. Some people have actually gone full ape. It's a very wide genre of what you can really create to make it look good. Next up for what your species of species creation is, what do they do? What is the social for this new faction of who knows what? Like, what is this empire? What do they speak? How do they act in certain situations? Basically, what I usually do is, for any new race, throw them in the Kobayashi Maru. What would they do in that situation? Some races literally go, oh, someone that's smaller than me is in need? They can die. And some people will be like, oh, let's go save them. And it's a trap. Oh well, we're already here. So it always varies. There's always that little niche depending on what race you can do. Um, but what I really get into is technology, and also why I bring up the Kardashev scale. Uh, Depending on the race, there's always that little niche of, do they have warp technology? Are they pre-warp, or are they already going to, this small galaxy is too boring, so I'm gonna jump 3 over and see what's going on over there. Who knows? Maybe they are imploding stars just for a power source for the next decade. This widely, this takes up many things. And to help me explain about how the Kardashev scale works with character creation, I brought in my good friend Ain to help me out with this.
Hi.
So, Ain, I know you've made a species recently. Would you like to give us a little synopsis of what you've done to help out with the Kardashev scale in relation to your new species?
Well, basically what I did when I started looking at, okay, what am I going to do for this species, is first thing I think of a name. Okay, think of a name, and work that off. And originally, I was huge into EVE Online, so the name Amar stuck in my mind. I was like, okay, I'll use that name. And then I looked at, okay, are these people going to be, are they expansionist, are they peaceful, are they solitary, what are they? And I thought, let's do a little bit of all three. So they're a little bit of expansionist, they don't like conflict, but they want to go out and they want to help those that they deem less, not necessarily less, but for lack of a better term, less. And then from there, I looked at the Kardashev scale. And there's many different forms of the Kardashev scale. I mean, the most diverse and complicated form of it is it's a 17-point Kardashev scale, and in each point there are 5 subpoints. I won't get into that because it's far too complicated, but the one I use is the 3-point Kardashev scale, which basically you have the system class, the galaxy class, and the universe class. And in these different classes, like the Federation is a class 1 tier 5, which means they're right on the cusp of switching over to 2. The reason the Federation would be a type 1 tier 5 is because they are at the point where they can harness all the resources from their planets. They haven't gotten to stars yet. They're testing with it, but they haven't gotten to where they can harness the full power of a star. Because if you look at a tier 2 society, which is what I'd chosen for the Amar, they're a tier 2, they can harness the power of a star, implode it, do whatever they want with a star. But for those who need for an example outside of that, you can look to Star Wars. The Star Wars universe very much is a Kardashev scale too. They use the power of the star in the new film. I will admit I didn't watch it. I didn't watch the new Star Wars film, but they use the power of the star to power the new Death Star. So that automatically will classify them as a skill too. And in the Star Trek universe, the only scale 3 I can think of off the top of my head would be the Iconians, because they went to a whole other galaxy. They have the capability of going anywhere they want to. They can harness the power of stars. They can make people just disappear, just by thinking about them. And so those are examples of what tier 1, 2, and 3 would be. So my species is a tier 2. So okay, I have tier 2. What can I go with that without being too outlandish? So I'm thinking, well, let's think about their weapon power first, and their propulsion system. So I'm having them, okay, let's think. Tier 2, they might be at a dark matter drive. A dark matter system. And then weapons, let's see, what's an exotic weapon in Star Trek? Proton. Nobody uses it off the top of my head that I could think of. So they use proton weaponry. I'm thinking, okay, so they have proton weapons, what about shields? Do I want them to have shields? No. I didn't want them to have shields. They don't have shields. Then I think, okay, what about their armor makeup? Something that people will know what it is, such as, you can say Duranium, you can say Titanium, you can say all these different types of armor. So it's like, let's think here. Let's use a formulation that I know from my chemistry courses is going to be a strong material. Magnesium and carbon, a mixture of the two. So I just put a random number in my head, magnesium 2, carbon 4. And from there, okay, so I have their tech level. Then I move on to society. Basically, what I did with the society is I took, like, all the nasty things we have in the world today, flipped them, made them happy-go-lucky, and stuck them into the society. So, what I actually have is the roles of men and women is completely reversed. Men cannot esteem to any political power or military power. They are stuck doing factory worker jobs, security force jobs, and basic grunt work. And the women, naturally, are the business owners, the executives, the politicians, the military elite. And so now that I have this, I look at it, and okay, so now I need an internal struggle, because every good society has an internal struggle. So I'm thinking, okay, so we're basically back to 1934, 1934 for them, which would be like men have no right to vote. You gotta go. I actually don't remember when that amendment was signed. Shame on me. But, so I think of that, and okay, the men are having their own suffragette movement. So that's basically what's going on. That's their internal struggle. So there's a rebel force. They're fighting for equality in the society. The mainstream society is trying to suppress it so that more men don't join the cause, and that led me to social structure. And if any of you have gone and read the book The Giver, I encourage you to read it. It's a wonderful book. That is nearly their system of government. There is a set of directors at the very top who nobody has ever seen, nobody's ever talked to, nobody knows where they are in the world. They are behind a closed door giving out orders to their subjugates, which would be their subdirectors, their director of finance, the director of homeland security. Thank you, Darkblade. Amendment passed in 1919. Yeah, I really should have known that. Anyway.
I got the actual date.
Oh, what was the date? Let's be honest here. What was the date?
August 18th, 1920.
August 18th of 1920.
Passed
Important
on June
date to
4th
remember.
And ratified on the 18th of August.
August 18th, yep.
No. Good. No, we have the date.
Bonus points all around.
And then they'll send those orders down to their subjugates, such as their director of Homeland Security, their director of Foreign Affairs, their director of Finance, of Agriculture, of Security, of Military, the Navy, Army, all those things. But nobody ever sees them. And these people have to take these orders from those who they've never seen and interpret them and pass them down to their subordinates, and down and down and down. So what I'm currently doing with my fleet, which is mine and Artie, we're in the same fleet, is they just learned about this new race. They're studying this new race. We just came back from an RP event that I did, where they hacked into the computer systems of a ship they found.
Abandoned, and nobody called claim for it.
Nobody called claim for it, so right of claim. And they're finding out all this new information about the species, such as who's in charge and all that. But as I got through, Artie actually triggered a sub-security level by asking who the directors were, and completely wiped the system, adding more mystery to who these people are. That's just a quick overview of what I'm doing right now, but there's still stuff. I have backup upon backup of logs and written articles for who these people are that I have spent hours upon hours of thinking of. And so yeah, that's the pain and stake that goes into setting up a species for RP. I'm
Yeah.
done.
Yeah, that from my experience with this race, the Amar, it's hilariously fun because it's just so much investigation on someone we don't even know. And when we first met him, there was literally a hole in space, and we're just like, "Oh, that's terrible. Let's go see it." So, I just think this was great. Getting on the topic of the character creation and how in depth you can get, you this is closer to the whole of I'm nitpicking every single bit. It's very wonderful of how detailed you get to it, because then everyone could just look at it and understand every single detail and could see it in a role play environment. If you want to role play as a character of this species, someone could immediately go, okay, I'm going to look down this species tree basically and going, it looks nice, it looks like they can do these specific physical traits and stuff like that. They may have awesome strength but a low IQ, so they're not going to be doing math in their head. So that's basically what they are. Yes, there may be a few odd apples in that bunch, but you'll figure that out in RP. So that's my message to that.
Well, sounds like you guys have put quite a bit of thought into it, and get far more detailed than I thought anyway, but anyways, yeah, that's quite a bit of stuff. But anyways, folks, that's pretty much our show for this week. We'll have a lot of stuff in the notes for you guys to check out and everything later on whenever I get the recording up. But hopefully you guys have found the information of use today. I know we had a lot of stuff to go over this time and everything. We wanted to make sure we got as much out to you guys as we could in the time that we had. Again, we'll have the blogs for you guys. They explain in a lot more detail than what we're able to hear. If you have any questions afterwards, after the show, anything, feel free to drop any of us a message. If you see us in game, say, hey, can you answer a question about whatever it is, the duty officers or the admiralty system or whatever it is. We're here to help, and we want to help you guys as much as we can. But anyways, folks.
And don't forget that we do want to build a relationship with the devs. One of the ways we can do that is to go to things like Star Trek Las Vegas, like we did last year. And we do have a GoFundMe that we will be putting in the notes as well. So check out the GoFundMe. It is quite extensive, but that is, of course, pie in the sky. Everything's covered. Every little bit you can donate helps, even if it's just $5. To get us back out to Vegas so that we can meet with stars of the show, so that we can meet with the devs, etc., things like that, and bring you back, of course, all the news from events like Star Trek Las Vegas.
Indeed. Definitely check that out. If you'd like to help us get back to Vegas, then every bit is appreciated, as Teacher Kirby said, and everything. But we'll have that in the notes for you guys to check out as well if you'd like to help us out. But that way we can get more news for you guys, maybe some sit-downs with the devs, with some of the stars, maybe if it's permitted and we're able to do so, maybe get some of your questions to them as well. But anyways,
yes, it's
folks,
definitely something we can do.
Anyways, folks, this is the pilot review show for this week. We've had a lot of stuff to go over, but anyways, we're warping on out of here, folks.
Have a good night.
Catch you later.
And peace out.